Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Inspiring Educators, where we meet inspirational educators from around the world and people who really inspire next generations of teachers and learners. Well, today I have an amazing education leader with us. I met Susana a couple of months ago first for the first time and just loved the energy and just loved how she's passionate about education. Well, she's the principal of McKinley Elementary School in Burlingame in California. Uh, I know that all of her teachers, all of her students, when they saw them, when they were looking at her while we were crossing across her school corridors, they had that light in their eyes, that they're seeing a friend. And as she told me that many of the students call her Directora, which is like the director. So yeah, and I can go on and on. Let me just stop here and let me welcome Susanna. Susanna, if you could just maybe introduce yourself to all the listeners, all the viewers, and we build it up from there.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. You were saying really nice things. I appreciate it. Um, so my name is Susana Garcia Fernandez. I am originally from Spain. I've been living in the United States 13 years and working here at McKinley. This is my first year. Very excited. So yeah, I live with my family in the United States. We all came together a few years ago. So yes, loving the culture, the students, and the families in California for sure.
Amazing, amazing. So you're a principal, directora, and I know that it's not a designation or a position that somebody starts with. So I'm sure you started as a teacher, and I'm sure you started as a teacher much long before then you came to the US.
Yes.
So what led you to deciding to become a teacher? Like, what was that light bulb moment, or what led you to become a teacher, basically?
I think that, many teachers in the world, which I feel like that was my case, we were always teachers. Many people ask me when was the first time that I started teaching. And I recall playing with my sister. My sister was the student, I was the teacher,
Yeah.
and she loved to get homework, and I loved to give homework. So it was pretty fun. And that was one of our favorite games. So after that, my first career was not teaching, which I also think is something that happens a lot in teaching, where
Yeah.
people go into other careers and then they find out that they want to be a teacher, and it's because there's something that kind of like pulls you to be a teacher. And sometimes in your life you're like, well, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an architect, I want to be a doctor, because your parents tell you that that's where you have to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And there's always something that tells you that's not where you're supposed to be. So I think I started teaching when I was 18 years old. My mom is a teacher. She was always a teacher, 35 years teaching. And they needed someone to help the students grow in their math. And I was good at math. So that was my first career. And so officially, I started teaching when I finished my degree when I was 30 years old. But unofficially, I started when I was 18 years old, because that was my first teaching with the students in a school.
Hmm. And you mentioned that that was not your first job. So you started officially teaching at 30, but unofficially at 18. And did you take any other role in between these two things?
I did, because I wanted to be an architect, and it was really hard for me to get that. In Spain, good thing we have public education, because everybody can go and learn anything they want
That
without
makes, yeah.
being very expensive. But it's also really hard to get to the courses or the universities that you like. So I tried to be an architect, but couldn't. And then I
Hmm.
started being, I started doing geology, which was something that I didn't enjoy very much. Um,
Okay.
but I still wanted to do something related with design and drawing. So I did a little bit of that before I became a teacher. So I worked as a designer, I worked as an illustrator, before I said, okay, this is it. I need to go into
No, I need to go back to something that I really love and I really enjoy and I really feel myself at, right? That's
yeah.
usually what I see most of the passionate educators doing. And uh, you know, I've met you a couple of times, so I know how you feel about education and how we kind of brainstormed. And I know that it's something that comes from within for you, you know. But what really led for you to decide that, okay, I've been teaching in Spain, and now I want to explore international teaching spaces. And usually that means changing your country, changing your life, uprooting yourself from, one part of the world to the other, many times leaving your family behind. Uh, what led you to first think about a career in international teaching?
Some people, I think, some of us are not born in the right place. Let's say it that. Let's put the elephant in the room.
Okay.
We're just born in a place, but do we really belong there?
Yeah.
So I've always felt that there was so much more that I needed to see and I always loved traveling, and I always
Hmm.
loved to visit other countries, to visit other cultures, to learn from them. And I knew about this program that brings teachers to the United States from a friend, and I was like, I want to try that, because I think
Hmm.
the Anglo-Saxon cultures have always been ones that I really liked and I felt
Hmm.
connected with. So I said, I really want to learn about another culture, and the program said that I needed to go back to mine, to kind of like to show everything that I've learned. Um, but at the end, you realize that when you find your place, you don't want to go anywhere. And I
Yeah.
found my place here. So I
Yeah.
came for one
Yeah.
year and stayed for 13. So it happens.
So it's been 13 years that you've been you started this journey of international teaching.
Yes.
And what was that one thing that really made you stay? What was that thing? I know that you said that you came for one thing and then you stayed, but was it the people? Was it the experience? Was it the diversity? Was it the culture? What was it that kind of drove you that, hey, I want to be continuing here?
It was the educational system. It was
Okay.
the way that the school works in the United States, the way that it
Hmm.
functions, the way that, how the students are taught, how they are treated, how they are respected, how their needs, everything, it's about them. They are the most important thing. And to me, that's how I am and how I feel. It's all about them. So yeah, it was because of the educational system, and I wanted my kids to go through it, and I wanted my own children to have the opportunity of going to university and studying whatever they wanted, and
Yeah.
being able to do whatever they wanted. So it
Right.
was it was that it was because of my family and because of the educational system, for sure.
Got it. And I know I've heard these stories that when somebody comes to a new country or goes to a new country to teach, or for any other profession for that matter, but specifically to teach, we have our set patterns of looking at people, looking at things, looking at education systems, looking at how we teach. So that's uncomfortable to move from one part of your thought process to another. And then you're in a new climate, you're in a new geography, you're in a new society. And it's not easy. I would love to hear from you. What were your first 12 months like? Maybe the first 3 months, then first 6 months, first 12 months, and maybe let's start from what was your day one like when you landed? How did it go that day? Let's start there.
The first day was really rough. I moved, my kids were 3 years old and 2 years old. We
Hmm.
left everything. We sold what we could, gave away what we had, and we said, what do we put in the suitcases? We can bring one per person. So we decided to fill two with toys, so that way our kids, who were babies, could have something that they could relate to from home, right? You're like, oh, what are they gonna miss? Their toys. Let's bring them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we'll buy clothes. That's fine. We landed in Denver, and it was raining like horrendously bad. It was
Mm.
pouring. We thought, when you are landing and you're like, am I gonna make it? That was
Yeah,
the feeling.
yeah. Oh God.
But we didn't think about renting. We didn't think about how are we gonna make it to the place we're living. So we went there and we couldn't find a car. I think it was the plane was delayed, so we came later than we thought. It
Hmm.
was night, it was raining. We found a shop, those vans that take you to whatever you want to go. He was speeding. We thought we were not gonna make it. It was such a weird experience, and we made it to the apartment that we had rented. We were
Hmm.
really lucky that we were able to rent a place from Spain with, usually people are not that nice, but we found a very nice person who allowed us to do that. And it was dark. It was at night. It was, I don't know, maybe 9. And we were at the door of the apartment and nobody was there. And I was holding my baby. My phone was not working because, of course, it didn't work here. And
Yeah.
this guy comes on a red truck, I will never forget, and stops and says, "Do you need anything?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is closed." And they said, "Well, we close at 6." And I'm like, "In Spain, everything closes at 9." So, it's not the same. So it was closed. He was really nice. And he took us to a hotel, and we were able to sleep that night. And he came the day after and picked us up in the morning so we could go into the apartments and get
Wow.
into the house. He was a really, really nice person. We found out that people in Colorado are very, very nice and they're always willing to help you. And yeah, that was our first day. We thought we were not gonna make it, but we made it.
God. God. And I know, when you're standing outside that door and you're thinking, I've changed, I've flown around the world, I've landed, and I could have been sleeping in my own house right now, relaxing with my kids, and I'm standing outside, it's raining, it's pouring, and I have my kids in my arms. Did I even make the right decision? Because at that time, nothing else matters. It's like safety of the family. And but I'm glad that you had somebody and then that happened. So that was day one. That was pretty eventful for you, I'm sure.
And they lost our suitcases, by the way. We
What?
didn't even have to, no, we didn't have suitcases. It was
Did
really
you?
like when you feel like everything is playing against you, you're so right. We're like, my husband is more like, did we do the right thing? I'm like, of course, this is just
Mm.
one thing. But he was
Yeah.
like, what are we going to do? We don't have clothes, we don't have anything. So, but then things start falling into place because
Yeah,
there's things that are meant to be. And that was meant to be.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say this to my friends, to teachers that we train, that we teach, everyone, that things should go rough for us to realize the importance of when things are not rough. And if we are able to experience them early on, that means that the journey thereafter becomes smoother because we've been tested and we have cleared the test. And now we have that journey ahead. So I love that part of the story that, that day one, face that. And then, next day you came to your apartment. So when did you go to the school? How many days did it take you to reach the school? What was the
Um,
process?
yeah, so um, I was when we moved, I was the only one that came with a job. My husband didn't have a job at that time. So we
Okay.
went to the school, I think maybe within the first 2 or 3 days because I wanted to tell them that I was there.
Mhm.
And so we came in, and as soon as we came in, they saw my husband, and they knew because they had interviewed him before, and they said, "Oh, you're here. We need another teacher." They got him in, and I said, "Oh, okay." So he went into the office with the principal and the assistant principal, and they offered him the job in the spot because you know how hard it is to find teachers. It is
Yeah.
so hard. So
Yeah.
they saw the opportunity and they took it. But of course, the permits for your spouses take longer. So he
Yeah.
couldn't work for the first month. So he was volunteering in the classroom while he was teaching. And then he got paid after,
Yeah. Of course.
backtrack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for the first month, it was really hard because it was just my salary. It was 4 of us, and we had to leave the kids in daycares, and we didn't know
Yeah.
that the daycare here are so expensive. So we found, like I said, we found. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that I remember from the first year or two in Colorado is the human part of everybody that is willing to help. They know that you came from the other side of the world, that you don't have, that you need. And, I found places where they helped us, parents and the daycare. They helped us with everything. So that was, we went to the school, but it was one thing after another. There were so many things that we needed to do. So
and as humans, we think we've planned everything only to reach a place and realize, hey, how did I miss the most important next 10 things which are going to impact my life? And it's not that it's somebody who's a good planner would not miss out. There are things that we don't know about, that we don't have the exposure to, and that's what really going to international waters, going to a new geography to start a career is all about, new challenges. And I've always believed that your maximum growth happens outside of your comfort zone. It cannot happen in your comfort zone. So that's like you really out of your comfort zone, looking at, okay, how do I handle this now? And then at the same time, you have to be outstanding in your classroom because you have to prove that you're a good teacher, right? So what was the first subject and the first class, and what grade did you teach when you first came?
The first one was third and fourth. It was one grade in the morning and the other one in the afternoon, because I swapped students since I was teaching in a dual immersion school. And it was all the subjects. No, that's not true. I taught Spanish and math and science. And I had a partner who was the English teacher that was teaching English and another content. So that was
Got it.
Yeah.
And for how many years did you teach that subject and those grades?
I've changed assignments almost every year, because like you said, only through challenge you grow. So I've always felt that, I always look at the students and I say, how can I support them best? So by first year, I taught third and fourth. And then I looped with them into fourth and fifth. And I realized that there was a lot of areas that they needed to grow or learn more. I said, I think I need to go back to kindergarten, to the basis, right? I need to go to kindergarten, and so that way I can set up the tone and the stages, so when they go into the upper grades, they are successful. So that's what I did. I went and taught kindergarten for a couple years. In the middle of those 2 years, I moved to Telluride. So I moved from Denver to Telluride. And then in Telluride, I discovered the beauty of a small town with, small school, with knowing everybody being a family. I felt like I belonged there for sure. It was a really, really nice place. And there I looped with the students, because I got like really accustomed to them and they were amazing and I didn't want to leave them. And I also taught high school, because as I told you, I loved math. So I went back to my roots and I taught math in the high school, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and then Culinary Arts class. And I created a program because I've always felt I needed more and more and more. And I was doing, that's what I said, I need to do my master's.
No. This went very fast for me.
I'm sorry.
You started with Spanish, math, science in third, fourth grade, went to fourth, fifth grade, went to kindergarten, and then you went to high school.
Yes.
And this was in different schools, or this kindergarten and high school was the same school?
Kindergarten and so it was kindergarten, and then the next year was first grade in the mornings and high school in the afternoon. And it was within the same district, because Telluride, it only has 1,000 students. So you have the district is really small. So you have just 3 schools that are kind of like separated for a street. And so you can go and have different assignments. So yeah, I had one assignment in the morning and another assignment in the afternoon. And my favorite part was walking from one school to another, because it was sunny and it was nice. So yeah, I did that for 3 years. I taught in the high school, or 2, 3, I think. And then I went into third grade. and I stayed there for 3 years. That was when I had finished my master's as an admin, and I was focusing on coaching and kind of like developing teachers. So my mind went, it shifted a little bit from from my mind of I need to go to kindergarten to teach the students to
Mhm.
I need to teach the teachers so they can teach the students because I cannot do it all. I'm
I
all over
have
the
to
place.
I have to share this story with you separately once, we are meeting. But I know this feeling, right? I want to teach to the students and then I want to teach to the teachers that there are some things that we have to do right. And but what's bringing me back to what I'm really coming back to is that I know you came to the US on that cultural exchange program where you were told to go back. But now I know that in your story, we've already reached year 6 or year 7 of you being in the US. When did you change from J1 to the other visa type, and how did it happen?
So it was so I had my J1 during the first year, and I knew right away that I wanted to stay. And I knew that the J1 it has a life, right? It's 3 years. If you are lucky, they extend it to 2 more, and then
Yeah.
that's it. Um, but the person that my principal in Denver, he really believed that I was a good asset to the country. So he sponsored us for an H-1B.
Okay.
So it was through the school that we were at that we were able to change from the J1 into the H-1B. And
H1B.
then he
Got
left
it.
the school, and because I'm another person, I'm a person that follows a leader. Everybody does, right? Um,
Yeah.
so he left the school, and I stayed there for another year, but it was not my place anymore. That's why we moved to
Yeah.
Telluride. So we came to Telluride with an H-1B, and the
Okay.
H-1B also has a life, right?
Yeah.
So when we were in Telluride, our principal superintendent believed in us, and he's the one that sponsored us for a green card, which is what I have right
Oh,
now.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
what I love the most right now is is the idea that if somebody's passionate and has the potential to create an impact, there will be people who'll stand up and support and make way for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that's such a powerful thing. And I've heard so many stories in the US where potential is really respected, skills are really respected, and people would come ahead and support you so that you become successful. And again, I love it. I love to hear that you experience the same. Um, so you were still at Telio then, and then you moved to California. How did that happen?
It happened in the middle of COVID. That was, I don't know why. I always choose the times to do the moves. Um, my
The-
kids, both of my children, like I said before, Telluride is a really nice place and we love it, but it's small,
Mhm.
right? And when you
Yeah.
have two children that speak a second language, and Telluride is all the same color. It's a really beautiful place, but it's all the same color. And we used to come to California for vacation, and we
Hmm.
love the culture and
Yeah.
different colors and the different cultures and the food. And so every summer we will come to California and leave and be like, oh my goodness, we're gonna miss it.
You have to go back.
So
I know.
we said in December, before COVID or anything, we said, okay,
Hmm.
I think it's time for us. Our principal left, our superintendent left. We stayed one more year, and we said, I think we should go another place. So we decided in December, before COVID or anything, that we wanted to come to California, and we started all the process. California has a different process for credentials, so you need to pass a test. So we passed.
Hmm.
We went through all the testing and everything, so we could when we came, we could have our licenses and everything.
License. Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, my husband found a job first, and then that was I was really lucky to find an assistant principal's job in a
Oh,
different
wow.
district. Yes, so I interviewed I don't know, a lot. And it was all through Zoom. Sometimes there were, I don't know, 40 people in the Zoom call. Yeah, some of the districts here in the Bay Area, when they interview for admin, they bring the entire community, which is phenomenal. And so there was a lot, and I didn't have any practice. I didn't know anything about. I was trying to find a job as an admin in a different state with no experience,
No
but I'm
experience.
like, whatever, I'm just gonna try. So I learned a lot through all those
Interviews.
interviews for sure. And so finally got a job as an assistant principal, and somebody gave me the opportunity, and I'm very thankful to them. And yeah, I was an assistant principal for 2 years before I became the principal.
And was it the same school district where you moved from
It was
assistant
within the same
principal?
school district. Yes, it was the same school district. They had an opening. Well, again, it's kind of like going back to what you were saying. It's always trying to find the challenges. It's always trying to find the opportunities. So when
Hmm.
they say, um, we need a teacher to do this, you just
Hmm.
jump. Like, I'll do it. We need a teacher. I'll do it. You always jump into those opportunities because those will open all the doors that you can imagine. If you lay back,
Yeah.
you just let the life goes by. There's
Then
no
nothing happens.
no. So
Yeah.
in my first year there as assistant principal, in the middle of COVID, when they opened the schools back, they said, why don't we have summer school in a different way that it's always been, where the kids can come to different schools and just have fun, just
Hmm.
love the school back. So we
Hmm.
created a whole STEAM hands-on project. And so I was the principal for summer school for 4 different schools. So I put together the entire summer school with the assistant principal, the assistant superintendent of the district. And I did it the following year again. And of course, they saw that, I was capable. And
Yeah.
when the opening happened, they offered me the job. And of course, I didn't hesitate. I said, yes, of course.
Yeah. Of course. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But tell me, how different, I don't want to use the word difficult because I know there's nothing difficult for you, but how different was being an international teacher and an international administrator? Because when you're a teacher, somebody else is responsible for you. The moment you become an administrator, now you're responsible for not just for yourself, but you're also responsible for other teachers who might be national teachers and international teachers. How was that different for you?
Um, you know, I don't know why, but it didn't feel like it was difficult. I know you were not trying to use that word. It didn't feel difficult just because as teachers, I think we have kind of like an eighth sense, which
Yeah,
is knowing, what the other person is feeling, what the other person is, what their needs are, what
yeah,
they're thinking. So, because that's the only way that we can work with the students. So for me, it was kind of, I always thought about my teachers as my students. I still say that every time that I
love
move
it,
into another school, I say,
love it.
okay, just so you know, if I treat you a little bit like children, don't take it personally. It's just that I'm still a teacher. So it's different. They have their needs. Each of them learn differently. Each of them have their own backgrounds. They are at different levels. You cannot lead them all the same way. It's the same way you don't teach students all the same way because it depends
Yeah,
on where you're at. So you have to evaluate where is each of them, what they need, and then you move from there. So it's a mind shift. Sometimes kids are easier, but it is also very really nice to be with adults and be and see how the things that you talk to them or you coach them in, then they put them into practice, and then
yeah,
you're seeing a lot of, not just you with your kids, but you're seeing 3 classes and you're like, okay, I was able to reach 3 classes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's very
yeah.
nice.
So I hear it like that when you're coaching the teachers,
Mhm.
uh, it means that you are out of your comfort zone more often than when you're with the students. And as we discussed earlier, and how we use it in maths, as we deduced earlier in our conversation, then you're out of your comfort zone, you grow the maximum. And
Mm-hmm.
hence, I think that's going well then.
Mm-hmm.
So so let's hew everything together. So you came as an international teacher, you faced challenges, you grew, you said, well, I've already become a successful third and fourth grade teacher. I need to do something new. You became a kindergarten teacher and you became a high school teacher at the same time. You said, well, this has been fun. Let me try something else. You shifted states, you shifted to an administrative position, and then always having that attitude of, yes, I want to do it. And you're a principal of a school in a new country. And while we've covered this journey in last one period, 40 minutes, uh, there's so much more to that journey. And the best part is, in our conversations, I know that now you've come to the other side of the table where you now bring international teachers, hire them, and train them to be successful teachers in the US. The first and the most important thing that directly comes to my mind is when you came as a teacher and when a new teacher comes in today, have the challenges changed? If they have, what are the challenges that a teacher faces now versus what a teacher used to face earlier?
I think that the challenges have not been different. I think they're still the same.
Hmm.
Um, I think your biggest challenge is yourself. It's how it's where you think about yourself. I've seen teachers
Yeah.
having a lot of success when they have an open mind, where they are willing to make mistakes and
Hmm.
say and be gracious about their mistakes and say, okay, I'm new, I'm learning. Um, I think that I've seen teachers being very successful when they want to learn and grow and understand that even though in our country we might be very efficient teachers and very successful, we come here and it's kind of like being reborn. So I've seen teachers not being successful because they come with that mindset of, oh, I am a very stellar teacher, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know you probably do. And you probably will be able to put all that into practice. But right now, you're a learner. And you have to understand that unless you understand that, there's no way you're going to be successful. So
Love it. Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that right now, what I've seen that it's more common, which is different that when I came, it's the amount of support. So you guys, with people like you and others that have decided to help all this movement of teachers in the world, I've seen a lot of support. I've seen things that I didn't have. I've seen that, that you're there for them, that you're training them, that you're just guiding them. I learned everything by hitting my head in the wall. I'm like, oh, wrong way,
Yeah.
another way.
Yeah.
Uh, so, which is also a way of learning, but
Yeah.
having somebody that is there to say, okay, I'm gonna hold you a little bit, but not too much, so you can get to the right place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
different. That's for sure something different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a lot to think about here from a perspective that, well, there is somebody who's going to be there to support, guide, but then that that reason to become an international teacher, that needs to be so important because if somebody just feels that I can go and I can be just another person in the room, suddenly you start losing touch with being an international teacher because there is more responsibility. There's more. Yeah, again, I don't want to say that there are people judging you more, but you want to prove yourself as somebody who's come from outside the system, and you're somebody who should get accepted, and you're somebody who wants to say that, hey, I'm here and I'm worth it. So, I really feel that that's something uh, that international teachers should have in their mind when they're traveling. And your story kind of puts it out there that wanting to continuously improve, wanting to continuously prove, wanting to continuously add value is what makes somebody successful. And it's not just about, I got a job, I'm taking my flight, and now my life is sorted. It doesn't work like that.
No,
And yeah,
there's
God,
so
I
much
love
to
this.
learn.
I love this.
There's so much to learn. There's a lot. I mean, this country has so much to offer, but you have to work really hard. I've said, I mean, I remember my first year telling, my friends in Spain, oh, you don't know what working is. The way that Americans work, that is working.
Yeah.
We work really hard here, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I think I think uh, it's something that I'm growing as a human being, and my brain is bubbling all the time. But yeah, you
Yeah.
have to come with the mindset that there's a lot of work, but it's worth
Yeah.
it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth
Yeah.
it because you're gonna see yourself growing as a human being, growing as an educator. You're gonna see your impact, and at the end, that's what teachers are. We all
Oh,
think that
yeah.
change the world, and that's what we were born for. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on that point, Susanna, just a quick thought on this angle that let's say if I was a teacher, some part of the world, I know that I want to come teach in the US. I want to come and teach in an outstanding school. I get selected. I want to be able to visualize that once I'll be in the school, I'll be able to create some impact. What is that? What is that differential, that delta impact that an international teacher can make in a school? And I'm not saying that a national or a local teacher or somebody who's been around cannot make. They can make too, but what is that delta that an international teacher brings on table, which kind of makes it attractive for a school to bring them on?
If you think about spaces and places like California, where we have so many culture and so much culture and different students, one of the biggest impacts that an international teacher brings, it's culture to the classroom, and
Hmm.
how, because when we have a teacher right here who is from half of her family is from India. So when you have somebody that can teach all the traditions, all the culture, the way that we do things in India is not the same as the way that we do things in the United States, or the things that we do
Yeah,
in Spain or in Mexico. So
yeah,
having that person authentic, being able to show the passion, the mind, the only way that mind's open, it's if we think about others with respect, with acceptance, with their culture, knowing who they are and what they bring.
mm,
So even if I try, teaching about, I don't know, something from another country, is not the same. So having different teachers from all over the
mm,
world in a school, it brings the world to the school. So that is just huge. That is just huge, because what we want to, when we educate students, we want to educate them with an open mind to the idea that wherever they go, they're going to have to learn to work with different people from all over the world, from different countries,
yeah,
different backgrounds, different ways of thinking. That only happens if you, as a teacher, bring that to the table. So that's, for me, the biggest impact. And then we don't know everything. Americans don't know everything. Spaniards don't know
mm,
everything. Maybe a teacher comes from another country
some
in
part of the world.
Africa.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they bring a new way of doing something that nobody knew before. And guess what? It works. Why don't we just take it? So it's just,
wow.
it's all that um richness. It's all that having that people together. It's how are we gonna grow as a race, as a human being, as animals, mammals, whatever you want to call us, if we are not collaborating
Yeah.
together all over the world? I mean, it makes no sense.
You know what? I just had goosebumps with a simple thought that came because of what you said. You know what was the thought? I was asking, I was putting myself in the shoes of that teacher who might be listening to this. And when imagine if I was the teacher and you selected me, my first thought would be, what would they want me to be? How do I learn their ways? And the answer that I just got was, they want me to be me. And that's so powerful, right? The moment a teacher realizes that I have to be myself and that's my strength, I don't have to go there and be somebody else. And if I stay myself, I have the potential to grow. But if I try to A, imitate, monkey someone else, there might be chances that I might lose myself and I might not gain somebody else. That's so powerful that you just shared. And yeah, so it is a goosebumpy kind of a thought, right? That uh, be yourself and you will be successful. Um, and it might sound that cliched self-help motivational book kind of stuff, but that's what it is. I love it. I love it. So you want me to be myself? I'm excited now. You can see the child in me getting excited. So you want me to be myself, but then I'm sure there are there'd be certain qualities that you'd be looking for when you're looking at an international teacher.
Mhm.
I know it goes beyond, good speaking skills. I know it goes beyond my intention to become an international teacher. What would you, or let's say, I know you work with so many people. So what usually is a general thing that people look for? And then I want to know your secret. What's that one secret that you have that you look for that, okay, this is my litmus test. If somebody passes this test, they would usually be a good teacher. So I want to know both of those sides.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of teachers, many from overseas. Last year, I interviewed a lot of teachers from the Philippines. Many. I was the person in charge of interviewing teachers from the Philippines and then place them in different schools in my other district.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So what we always look when we interview teachers, it's knowledge about the child, how the child learns, about yes, knowing the content, it's really important, but also knowing the child and the stages in the developmental, what is important for them. Now, the social emotional is becoming a very important piece in the United States for a reason,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the students here require a lot of attention, and that means that you have to be somebody that cares deeply for them, and you can really feel that when you're interviewing someone. You can say, you always ask for practical cases, so you ask questions where they have to give you some examples of things that have happened while they were teaching, and you really look for those pieces where they tell you, so, and this happened to the child, and if they say I felt or I sensed or I thought, those are the ones that you're really looking into, because you're bringing a human being, right? Who's
Yes.
going to work with kids. So yes, we want a human being who's going to care for them. They need to know about, that the students learn differently. And so right now, the different modalities of learning. So somebody that says, how they make sure that they reach all the students depending on how they learn. It's also important because in the United States and in other countries, teaching in front of the class is not as common anymore. And so you really need to have skills on how to group the students and make sure that you give them, each of them, what they need. That's essential. So yeah, that's kind of like an average of what usually look into when we interview teachers. For me personally, what I always look into is the flexibility. It's the openness. And, when the teacher says, yeah, but, I don't know, I might not know that, but I'm willing to learn it.
Beautiful.
Because at the end, what you want is somebody that doesn't know everything, because that's impossible, that doesn't have all the answers, but is willing to say, okay, I don't know that, but let me know. Or who can I ask for help? And they go and they learn it. And then a month later, you see some growth. That's all we need, because at the end, we are educated, right?
Yeah.
We just want people that are willing to learn and to learn and to grow. And after that, then everything should be fine.
Yeah. So basically, when you are meeting teachers, you're looking at what is their, let's make a new terminology here. What's their learning quotient? How much can they learn?
Oh, that's what I'm looking into. Yes, for sure. Like how much they can learn.
We just made a new term. We should copyright it, and we should say that Susanna and Rishabh in their conversation figured out that teachers should have learning quotient, and that's what they're going to be looking for now. I think
Yeah.
that's the power of a good conversation. You can come up with amazing ideas. So yeah, so learning quotient, and I feel that would be very powerful for any teacher to have, and they could really become successful if they knew learning, if they knew how to learning how to learn. That would be an amazing thing to know. Great. So there's this one last thing that I always ask school leaders, education leaders to do. Uh, and this is something which is very, very close to my heart. I've talked about this at multiple places that teaching as a profession has to be highly respectable, has to be highly respected, and should be like that high aspiration profession. And I think it's our responsibility as teachers and educators and leaders and education leaders to kind of tell the next generations what teaching is all about. Because is what people see on social media and movies, teaching is not that. Teaching is much more than that. So if you had to explain what teaching is as a profession, how would you do that? And the format that I usually like to do is like, if you had to sell the teaching profession to the next generations, how would you do that? So just what is your definition of teaching as a profession? What does it mean to you? And what would it add to a young adult from next generation if they wanted to choose teaching as a profession?
I think teaching it's a way of living. I think that if somebody that I will always say this, I know it's kind of like naive, but if you think that you can change the world, become a teacher. If you think that you want to change the world, become a teacher. If you think that there's thing that the human race still have some things that they can learn, become a teacher. Because at the end, teaching, it's about connections, it's about relationships, it's about love, it's about challenges, it's about crying sometimes. It's
Yeah,
kind of like watching a movie on Netflix, but a really like a rom-com,
like a
like a
light movie.
yeah, like where you cry and then something happens and then everybody's happy. So it's kind of like that. If you watch all those rom-coms on TV, it's kind of like the same. There's always a challenge, but at the end, everything is happy.
Mhm.
So I think that, if somebody is thinking about becoming a teacher, I will always say, don't doubt it, because it's just everything that is going to come to you. It's just going to be fulfilling. It's just going to come here. And just seeing those faces, when you see the little kids and all of them, just like you said, they look at you and say, hi. And you're like,
Yeah,
hi, I'm
yeah, it's
happy.
like,
I can
right?
go
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
They love me. Okay, I'm fine.
Oh
So
God, oh
it's
God.
just beautiful. It's just about love. That's it. It's about love.
Love it. Love it. And thank you so much. I think I've really enjoyed this conversation because while we deep dived into the entire journey of how to be an international educator, move from being a teacher to being a school leader, what I also loved was the passion, the energy, the commitment that we've been able to experience in this conversation with you. And I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm sure a lot of us, a lot of international teachers will be super motivated, inspired by this, which is why we do this podcast called Inspiring Educators, where we bring an inspirational educator like you to inspire next generation of teachers. So thank you so much, Susanna, for doing this. And I'm sure everybody will love it. And I'd like to thank all the listeners for staying with us, listening to this. And I know this is one podcast that you'd want to keep coming back to get inspired, to keep learning, to keep getting motivated. And it's all thanks to Susanna. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.